Mall walkers, Sundays, and bots. Mall walkers, Sundays, and bots. This is the next episode on switching to a tech career in your 30s and 40s. Welcome to How to Switch to a Tech Career in Your 30s and 40s. It's the podcast where we love to get excited and down to brass tacks, talking about the real things that help you move the needle when you switch from any other career into a high-tech or IT career. And this is where we're going to discuss the real hints, tips, tricks, and the methods and the protocol that help you switch into a real tech career. So welcome. Yes, welcome to the episode. Mall walkers, Sundays, and bots. Let's give a little bit of a recap. What's happened in the past week. Last week, if you didn't catch the episode, you missed where I discussed having a book giveaway. And I need to announce that there was one winner of the book giveaway, and I am about to send it out to him for purposes of anonymity and not destroying the undercover nature of switching into a tech career. I will not mention a name. I won't even mention an initial, just that this was a gentleman in the United States who is let's just say he is a public servant, and that is a very low-key way to describe what he does, but he's switching into a tech career, and I won't even mention that. So he is going to be receiving, he chose the, let's see, which book was that? Where is it over here? Oh boy. He chose oh yeah, I remember now. I don't see it in my book stack over here. I think it's upstairs, outside of my studio. Pragmatic Programmer, the Pragmatic Programmer. So if you Google that, you'll see which book he's going to get. There is still an option for people to go back and listen to last week's episode. I think it starts with the word Burger King, and choose to email and do the right things, and I won't give it away. What you need to do, you just need to go back and do that. So if you really want a book which I think will help you, or at least will help you come to terms with the lingo in the industry and really, really make you get ahead in many ways so that you can switch into a tech career even quicker, you can go back and listen and get that. So congratulations to you. You know who you are. And I will be shipping that out shortly to you. So good job. I will mention, one of the biggest things about switching into a tech career from another career, especially in your 30s and 40s, is you've got a lot on the line. So before I get to mall walkers, I just want to say this because hopefully you're listening. The person who requested the book gift from the giveaway, I just want to tell you directly, good job following through. So a lot of people just hear something and they say they're going to do it and they never get around to it. And the problem with that is it's endemic with how you do the rest of your life. So, but the good news is about you specifically, and I'll move on from you, but the good news is about you is you have chosen to do something and take action, and that says something about you. Now, if you're not someone who takes action, you tend to say, oh yeah, that sounds great, and then you never do anything about it, or when you do it, it's months later just because you remembered that you forgot and all of that. I just want to encourage you to figure out what it's going to take for you to get something done. I would suggest that you deal with procrastination and fear. Because of procrastination and fear, a lot of people just hustle. But that doesn't help. That helps for maybe a few days or a couple weeks. But when the hustle's gone, do you really get things done? most people just do not. So when I started Tech Career Accelerator and getting private clients, I learned that that was the big issue. I didn't know that. In fact, when I started it, I thought I would give tips and tricks for coding and all of that. But the more people I started to get to know, and in 1 year, I know I had about 150 conversations. I had let me not be using hyperbole. I hate hyperbole. I just used it there. I think I dislike hyperbole. There we go. I think I had 133 conversations on the phone or on the Zoom calls in the matter of 30 days when I posted on Reddit and said I would be able to help people. And that is when I really, really started learning that people have a major problem with getting things done. So, like many coaches, I think that probably my job falls in the category of these general helps to help people get things done and figure out how they can become a person that gets things done. And then all of that is with a technical flair or technical flavor. One of my clients last year, he went from marketing into a tech career with database, and a lot of these like him and a lot of others that I've helped, their first job in tech, it feels and smells techy, but it's maybe not the dream job they thought they would get, and they're okay with that. And that's what it's like to switch into a tech career. So I remember last year with this gentleman who switched into a tech career, and I had the honor of watching him do it. And I think maybe some things I said helped him. His private client of mine, his thought was that um, basically being able to be responsible for things is very important to him. He never really said that, but as I watched him, I thought, this person is someone who's going to get things done. And right now in your life, you may be able to notice that about yourself. You're getting things done and you're able to um, check things off lists. That is a good clue that you would be able to get things done and get into a tech career. The other big clue is, are you able to plan things? So I've said this so much and I love it. When God created us, He created us in His image. And when He created us, He made us different than the animals. And it's interesting that if you think that we're all animals, well, according to the Bible, God gave one animal, human animals, a task that He gave no other animals, and that was to name all of the animals. And so, you know, there are no animals, as you know, whether or not you agree with my faith in Jesus Christ or you do not. That's okay. I'm here to help you with tech, but you'll notice that no other animals name anything. Only humans do. So think about that. And then don't just think about that, but also take advantage of that. So if you're sitting around doing nothing, maybe you need a rest, time to rest. But if you've never really named anything or come up with a plan and named it or organized something and come up with an idea in order to switch into a tech career, you're probably just a consumer. And that is, it's sort of animalistic, but maybe take the next step and say, I'm a, I'm a person and I was created to do great things, big things. I can name this process. I can list things on paper, check them off, and proceed towards a goal, and I can plan for the future. That is what separates us from the animals. And sure, scientifically, we are animals, but, we are very different for some reason. So think about that. Are you just being animalistic or are you planning things? So those two keys. And my clients that are super successful, they are not superstars in tech, they are admittedly just people who can plan and get things done. Okay. Now, one of the types of people that plan and get things done and plan their lives out. Have you ever heard of mall walkers? So if you're in your 30s and 40s, probably in your 40s, you've heard of mall walkers. And if you are in your 30s, you may have not heard of mall walkers because malls have been deteriorating for years. And as we've watched malls deteriorate, we see that people aren't going to them as much. And you probably haven't gone to a mall in a long time. You know, chances are you haven't. Now, maybe you go to malls all the time. Maybe you even work in a mall. There are exceptions. We've got Mall of America here in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And then you've got larger malls and outlet malls and all that. But let me just tell you what a mall walker is. It's someone who is usually older. Usually I would I would stereotype this a mall walker as someone who is in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Usually at least if they have more of um, a bent towards mall walking, they're also probably retired because they will take their time during the day and go and walk through malls and get miles accomplished. And that is a person who I've never really looked down on mall walkers, okay, but I would also say I've never really given props to them either. They're not some people you walk through when you're going through a mall and trying to shop and you see someone pacing through the mall at a high rate of speed and they've got, thick tennis shoes on and walking shoes. They're clearly not carrying any bags. They're not shopping. You don't really think, I want to be like that. But the deal is, several years ago when I started walking because my kids got a dog and they're not going to walk the dog, I will walk the dog. I ended up starting walking about a mile a day or more. I started to gain an appreciation for mall walkers, or at least I started to not just ignore them. I started to realize, oh, those mall walkers from when I was a kid, and I see them walking around the mall. This is what they're doing. See, what happened after about a year of me walking the dog is I lost a noticeable amount of weight, and I didn't know that I did it because it was so gradual. So why am I bringing up mall walkers? Well, am I telling you to lose weight? No, but I am telling you sometimes the people who have a steady, consistent daily plan are the people who have a long term goal to do something. Now, for mall walkers, it's a long term goal to be healthy and to see their grandkids and great grandkids, I'm sure. For me, walking the dog, I didn't have a plan. All I did was I tended to daily duties, and that was taking out the dog. And one of my friends told me it seemed like I lost some weight over the course of a year, because we saw each other about once a year. And that's when I realized, oh wow, that was probably because I started walking. So let's take this in two ways. Number one, if you have no physical fitness plan daily going on, you need one. And one thing you can do is walk. Okay, so get outside or get on a treadmill and walk, but don't make it something that's has a big threshold of um, effort to start. So if you can open your door and start walking, you should do it. Now, the second level here is planning and executing plans and daily tasks. And if you've started looking at courses and you've started looking at certifications to get, you realize this is a long term haul. You're going to be doing a lot of things over a long term. And so months or years. And what I encourage you to do is break that down into daily tasks and then track your progress. So you can look back over a year and say, wow, I didn't realize I got all that done, but it's been a year or 6 months or whatever you have. People in my program, they tend to be between 3 and 9 months to get into their tech career. And you can look at that and look at your progress and say, wow, I can't believe the progress I've made because it just seems like every day I did a little bit. So that's it with mall walkers. The second topic is Sundays. Now this is one that hits hard for me. So as you know, I don't hide it. I'm a Christian, and I'm not just a Christian on the surveys. I am a believer in Jesus Christ. And if you don't know him, I encourage you to check him out. Maybe grab that Bible and read or talk to someone who knows about him. And that's not the purpose of this podcast, but in many ways, if you have a life purpose, everything you do is reflected in that, is part of that. So yeah, sure, this is part of that. But what I would say about Sundays is I grew up with a family that, we go to church on Sundays. So you've got this time block where you're doing something different on a Sunday morning. And then we'd go to church on Sunday nights as well. I don't do that as much these days with my family. But what happened was I grew up with this habit of not not doing school, of course, but then when I became an adult, I didn't do work on Sundays. And as I look back, I see a lot of people who were in churches like mine who may have had a different motivation for that, such as they don't want to break the law. They're looking at the 10 Commandments and they don't want to break the law. And I will say that is a valid concern for those people. And for myself, being a Christian, I know that the law of the Jewish law back in Exodus no longer applies. But at the same time, I do believe that we were created and the Creator took a day off. Imagine you're let's say there's something easy to do. Let's say, oh, I don't know, I'm filling up my cup of tea this morning and I'm pouring it in, and then I take another day and then I pour it in, and then I do it another day and I pour it in, pour water in the cup, and every day I pour up my cup, and then on one day I get ready to pour and I say, I'm going to take a break. Oh, that would be ridiculous. It would seem crazy. But then I look over and I realize my kids are watching and they see that I take a break on one day a week. And I think that's what the Sabbath day is. So, of course, for me, it's Sunday. I think that's the day that a lot of Christians would take the day off starting in the New Testament. So, why all this talk about Sundays? I have had the biggest problem with taking a day off every single week until I would say in the last couple years. And I just hit 50. So, um but what I've noticed when I do take a day off is that everything about me changes. After the initial um struggle with not doing anything, I start to relax. I start to enjoy the people around me, namely my children and wife, and even neighbors on a Sunday, especially in summer around here. And I start to not be as nervous about the week. So I encourage you to take a day off. Regardless of what you believe, what your faith is, I I'm encouraging you to take one day off of your studies and all of your efforts and see what happens in your schedule. Now, the last thing, and we're running out of time, is bots. I don't know how much I'll say about this right now, but um, bots are not taking your job. Okay? So, whatever job you're pursuing, it will be decorated with bots. A lot of people will find that their jobs are slightly modified by bots. Now, by bots, I mean AI and eventually artificial general intelligence. This is not going to be the downfall of all tech jobs right away. It will change tech jobs. Do you remember when the phone was first introduced? Okay, I didn't say mobile phone, and I didn't say smartphone, I just said phone. And I don't remember when that was introduced, but do you remember when maybe the Android phone or the iPhone was introduced? Let's talk about that. I'm not that old. So when the iPhone was introduced, I mean, you can go back and watch the video of Steve Jobs introducing the iPhone. It did start a revolution, and jobs changed. Everything was on the web. In fact, before the iPhone, and even for about a year after the iPhone, there were no mobile apps. There were web apps that you could view on an iPhone. And so even my job didn't exist. The job I have today as an iOS engineer did not exist until a couple years after the iPhone was out. So everything changed. The jobs were not gone though. There are still front end, back end, and full stack developers. In fact, you may be pursuing one of those jobs. It's interesting to note that your job existed before the iPhone, but it has changed. So that is what I predict the bots, AI, and AGI will do, is not take our jobs, but change them. So keep pursuing, and I think you will do well. That's about the time that we've had today. It's run out, and I really appreciate you joining. And I do hope that in the next episode, you will tune in, maybe go back to the last episode and see if there's a book left for you. But thank you for listening. I appreciate you, the listener. You took time to join this podcast and listen to the things that I've said. So I want to just say thank you. If you check the show notes, you will notice a couple links there. And one of them is to be an interviewee on this podcast. You can do it using your name. We can interview you, give you some coaching. You can also do that interview anonymously with an ID so that you won't be found out at your current job. So we want to be sensitive to you in that way, but also give you some help. So check the link for that application and for other free information. Join us next time. Thanks again for listening.